and welcome to Brown Bag Lunch. I think a lot of us are already hunkered down, awaiting the big storm that we may not get. Maybe we'll be lucky. Alrighty. Anyway, welcome to Brown Bag Lunch. So glad that you're here. And there are no cards going around today. So unless we miss somebody, we don't even have any birthdays today. I asked the ladies, the Jackson County Historical Society has a 250th committee, and we're planning a lot of different activities and things to celebrate our 250th birthday. And two of our stellar committee persons are here today, and so they have a quick announcement.
Good afternoon, barely. Okay. So we're on the 250th committee. A little closer. Okay, we're on the 250th committee with the Jackson County Historical Society, and we're having a fundraiser. We don't have a lot of money put aside for expenses for the 250th. So what we're doing is we have this Iowa history book that's written by Philip Owen, and maybe a lot of you know who he is. And he wrote this book, but it's history of not only Jackson County, but Dubuque, Jones, and Delaware County. And we're selling these books for $10 for our fundraiser. And so it's not only just history for Iowa, but it's a good souvenir for the year. And so we'll be there at the table. They're $10 each, so when the program's over, if anybody wants one, see us over there.
Great. Thank you, ladies. So you've already heard a few of our Brown Bag Lunches, one a month, that we're dedicating to the 250th birthday. And just to remind you, on May 23rd, Saturday, just before Memorial Day weekend, we're joining the Daughters of the American Revolution and the Pioneer Cemetery Commission and a couple other groups to have a big event at the Andrews Cemetery. And it starts at 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock? Starts at 10 o'clock, yes. And it's really going to be quite a nice thing. So we hope that you will join us there. Also want to announce for Shirley Brandon that the Methodist Church is having their spring fling tomorrow, right? It's tomorrow. 9 to 11 is the coffee, 11 to 2 is the lunch. It's a free will donation, and it's at the Methodist Church. And it's always a lot of fun, and you'll see a lot of people that you want to see. It'll be just nice. If you noticed outside, and maybe most of the activity is gone now, but it was certainly busy outside this morning. D&T Concrete from Bellevue was here. They poured cement in our new building, our new addition to our building out here, that you're going to be hearing a lot more about pretty soon. But for those of you who don't know, that was a huge hurdle for us because the Iowa DNR was insisting we put a vapor barrier, et cetera, et cetera. So it's been a very, very long and arduous ordeal. So we're really glad that the cement is poured and we can move forward with that project. While you're looking out there, please don't walk on the cement, but take a look at the door if you want. While you're walking out there, our depot, our wonderful narrow gauge depot, is in the process of being painted. At least some of the preparatory work is being done. So our depot is going to be painted and it's going to look all new and spiffy. And if you weren't sure that spring was here, our yard is getting mowed today for the very first time this year. So, and then I just wanted to tell you too, for those of you who go out to the Hurstville Lime Kilns to enjoy that beautiful, beautiful site. Work's going on there. We have new wood chips in that are being put on the paths, and Nancy has been out there. Nancy Flagel has been out there working with her flowers and making everything look good. She's kind of the ambassador for the Hurstville Lime Kilns. She even has a little booklet when people come. She can show them the booklet with the old pictures. It tells the history of the lime kilns, and she has a little donation jar. She kind of hits them up for a donation, and she even gives them a flower to take home to plant. So Nancy is just awesome, and we thank her. On the 28th of this month, Nancy Johnson is going to be giving a brown bag lunch. I think we're calling it the history of the sewing machine, or something like that. And she's fascinating stuff, but knowing Nancy, it will be fascinating. And so that's something to look forward to too. And today we're going to be talking about, as you can see, Jackson County Blacksmiths. And I want to thank Sue Mayberry for doing this program for us. So thank you.
So, as usual, I have a lot of slides, so I'm not going to focus on any one blacksmith, but I'm going to go by them kind of quickly. This photo that Bonnie recently gave me, the caption reads at the bottom, "The Blacksmiths Annual Picnic at Camp," and then the next line starts, "Right away, Bellevue, Iowa. September 10th, and I believe the date is 1919. I can't quite tell, it's 191 something. I don't know if anybody knows anything about that for sure, but we'll make sure, and maybe that would be one for a brown bag lunch too. I don't know. The early blacksmiths were known as the Supply Corps. The Jackson Sentinel, December 2nd, 1921, they printed, "With the settlers came the Supply Corps, the merchants and skilled craftsmen who could always find employment in a new community. There would be blacksmiths, carpenters, wheelwrights, joiners, masons, bricklayers, brickmakers, and printers," and then, more as well. We have a wonderful display of blacksmithing articles and tools at Pearson. And here is just some of what you will see there. And all of the tools, the bottom left picture says that those blacksmith tools were used by Jim Frank's great-grandfather. So I'm not sure if all those tools are just the ones that we're seeing.
I think all of them.
All of them are. Okay. The old sod-covered log blacksmith shop, built by J.E. Goodnow, was used as the first schoolhouse, church, polling place, and town hall. And shown are the names of Andrew blacksmiths in the early days. So in the beginning I thought, wouldn't it be cool to find a connection between where all these blacksmiths came from, but as it turns out, all countries had them. And then we had a lot of Iowa and other U.S.-born blacksmiths as well. Dottle was a blacksmith in Germany until 1851. He lived a few years in New York before coming to Jackson County. He operated his blacksmith shop where the Poor Farm was later located. And shown is Dottle's buggy shop. David's son Theodore was a blacksmith apprentice, and his son Frederick Henry Fred was also a blacksmith, hence Dottle and Sons. Edgar Ray was a blacksmith. He married Lamont native Nancy Hodges, and by 1900 the family was living in Montana. Now there were quite a few blacksmiths, and I think that a lot of them left because maybe there were too many around, or Blacksmith Ray, a Tennessee native, served with the 24th Iowa Company I and lived many years with his wife and children in the Andrew area, and later he moved to Maquoketa. Baldwin blacksmiths included A. Hansen, Frank Landwehr, Fritz Martin, George McMillan, John Pansack, and Worth Townsend. George had told Catherine that he had a house made of Nebraska brick for her. And so when they said that, she never forgave him, She was never fond of that house. They ended up staying in Nebraska, but she never forgave her husband for having her move there. Wouldn't have been a place I would have wanted to raise my children in, kind of sod house. William Townsend married Phoebe Tebow in Monmouth in 1869. He continued his trade in Randolph, Iowa. And there was a newspaper clipping about him when he was 81 years old, and it said that his pastime is sawing and splitting wood, and that he uses the same precision in this as he does in his blacksmithing. So he must have still been doing that as well. And that is a photo of his wife. December 2nd, 1921, from the Jackson Sentinel. Farmers around Bellevue didn't seem to be able to continue to adjust their income to their outgo, so they weren't making enough money, especially in regard to putting the shoes on horses. So what they did was they formed a co-op. And so now the local blacksmiths were holding out for $10 per team for shoeing horses. 200 farmers put up the necessary cash, and they're the ones that started the cooperative blacksmith shop. So it's now costing them $6 per team for shoeing. The local blacksmiths now are advertising $5.50. So actually blacksmiths didn't start the co-op, the farmers did. And so here are some horseshoes that are on display at the museum at Pearson. And I don't know, do we know where they came from? Bellevue had many blacksmiths. Some were born in the East. William Henton, a Virginia native, was a Bellevue blacksmith for many years and remained in Jackson County. John and Charles Muncie were father and son blacksmiths who came from Ohio. And then many of the others were born in Germany. I read that the first blacksmith shop in Bellevue was kept by Henderson Palmer, who was killed in the Bellevue War, and shown as a photo of his third wife, Typhina Starr. John Peterson was a business partner of blacksmith Henderson Palmer. In 2015, Bellevue celebrated the 175th anniversary of the Bellevue War and invited descendants to attend. The first white men who did anything at blacksmithing, they're saying, so maybe it wasn't really this Henderson Palmer, were Hankins, Ziegler, and Whitmore in 1839. They had a shop on 2nd Street near where the Merchants Hotel later stood. They did a blacksmith's trade as well. The first regular blacksmith shop was started in 1842. He was soon followed after by Henry Jones, who opened a shop a little farther up on Front Street. Shown is William Edward Schultz in his blacksmith shop in the center photo. And that location is unknown. He was born in Bellevue but had later moved to Minnesota. And then shown with his family on the left, and in later years with his wife on the right. There has been a lot of programs done on the Waycant blacksmith shop. And so just kind of mentioning that one briefly. And the Historical Society is grateful to the family for donating their blacksmith shop. And this can be seen at the Penningroth Machine Shed. Brandon Township. Joseph Rimmer, born in about 1819, immigrated from England. The 1870 census shows he was married with 3 sons and a daughter. Jackson Abney, J.B. Allberry, and William Grote came from Ohio. Frederick Morris, Paul Rimmer, and Ed Harwood were Iowa natives. The rest came from the eastern states of New York and Pennsylvania. Buckhorn. James Ryan immigrated from England. William Mason's home and shop were north of the Red Schoolhouse on the highway west of Maquoketa, and that's been gone a long, the Red Schoolhouse. The stone house was within sight of the road and stood for many years after the family was gone. William, his wife, and son Henry are buried in Buckhorn Cemetery. Shown are the many Butler Township blacksmiths who were either born in Iowa or Ireland. Canton. Thomas Bayram was born in England in about 1812, and Joseph Pennell came to Jackson County from Ohio. Cottonville's blacksmiths included the Abbeys and James McKillop. And this is a hand-drawn map of Cottonville as it appeared in 1893, and you can see there's several blacksmith shops. There's one right here, and then one kind of to the left there. Which all of those buildings are gone, right? They're all gone. Adolphus Thurston Abbey, he was a blacksmith, along with his brother Thomas in the Cottonville area. And Thomas lived and worked just like he went back and forth from Jackson County to Delaware counties. And then blacksmith H.G. Dole worked at a novelty carriage work. Jackson Sentinel, April 3rd, 1890. The little town of Emmeline seems to be coming out of the kinks. There is to be 2 stores and an Odd Fellows, and then the rest of it I couldn't read. And then it mentioned all that is wanting is a blacksmith shop. So a lot of these towns had so many, and Emmeline was looking for one. Fairfield Township. James Lathrop from Indiana was residing in Fairfield Township by 1860. Mars, Phelps, and Tiffin by 1870, and Henry Cruz by 1880. Farmers Creek Township had many blacksmiths, with the majority of them being U.S. born. These blacksmiths came to Jackson County from New York, New Jersey, Vermont, Pennsylvania, Maine, and Ohio. Daniel Ferrier and Richard Bigelow were born in Canada, and John Sullivan in Ireland. Thomas Jefferson Conklin was born October 13, 1859 in Jackson County, and he was the son of Easter Conklin, and I did a brown bag lunch about his mother titled Murder on Lytle Creek, if any of you came to that one. Nathaniel Rush was born in Ohio. He died at an early age due to typhoid fever, and the photo that's shown there is of his father, George. James Smith was born in Pennsylvania. His son Watson was also a blacksmith, and he was married to Margaret Troyer, and they were the parents of at least 11 children. 1878 was the last year that they were living in Farmers Creek Township. They later moved to Kansas, where James was killed by Indians. And so there's several different accounts that tell about this, but there was a band of 300 Cheyenne that were led by Chief Dull Knife and Little Wolf, and they had fled Indian territory, and they had killed quite a few settlers. And on Find a Grave, it tells the story then of James. So he was killed the same year that they went west. So he was putting up hay with his son Watson, and he was attacked and wounded by the Cheyenne Indians. He managed to crawl into a plum thicket near the road in a draw that runs down to the creek. He was still alive when they found him the next morning, but he had lost so much blood that he was very weak. And so they loaded him up in a wagon, took him home, which at that time, they had just only been there, less than a year. And so they still just had a dugout. And then he died that night. Fulton. William Fenton was born in Allegheny County, Pennsylvania. He's buried in Sweezy Cemetery. Isaac Thompson, of the firm of Thompson Brothers, proprietors of Wagon and General Blacksmith Shop, came with his parents to Iowa, and he served in Company F of the 2nd Iowa Volunteer. He enrolled in 1861 and served for 3 years. He was honorably discharged. And after the war, it was that he was married and then engaged in the wagon making and blacksmith business in Fulton. Godfrey Myers, a German immigrant, was employed by Thomas Brothers. John Thompson was affiliated with Thompson and Trimble. Gary Owen blacksmiths included Lynch, Cano, Meehan, Rollis, Zubolt, and Fleming. Photo on the left, on the left of the left photo, is Mike Meehan, and then the other person is unidentified in the center, and Pat Brady on the right. And in the right photo on the left is Mike Meehan. And on the right, I think I've got this straight, is Mr. Rollis. There was a road cut behind the Noonan farm coming out between McKenna's farm and St. Patrick's Church. The blacksmith shop was located on this road. Meehan later moved his blacksmith shop to Bernard. Jackson Sentinel, 1876. Green Island. The first place of business was a store building built by William Hopper in 1874, and then a hotel built by Haggerty Dorn. With the exception of these 2 buildings, nothing was done towards building up the town until 1876. 2 stores were built, a large church, another hotel, and a blacksmith shop. Shown is C.W. Chandler's General Blacksmithing and Wagon Shop. And I think a brown bag, Bonnie, one of the Tubbses did change there. Martin Blacksmith Shop in Hurstville. So would that have been right along the highway to this building in Hurstville?
Yeah,
Just right there? Across from the kilns? So that was there for quite a few years then.
There were two.
There were two of them, okay. Bradley Brothers Blacksmith Shop also was located in Hurstville. Men in the photo may be the Bradley brothers. Edward Trimble was an Ohio native and a member of the Reorganized Church of Latter-day Saints. He's shown here with his wife, Esther. In 1863, Marx Erickson purchased 1.5 acres of land at Mount Algor and started a blacksmith shop. Featherson came from New York, Gilroy from Canada, and Gracie from Ireland. Jackson Township blacksmiths included Schuler, Johnson, Oster, Sharpless, Spire, Wooten, and they were all from here, all from the United States except for John Gross, who was from France. Shown is Christian Spire's passport issued in 1920. Christian was born in Nassau, Germany. Lamont Blacksmith. Frank Harris and William Harris were born in Canada and worked together as the Harris brothers. Anthony Banacri was born in Iowa. Stover was from Maryland and Fitzpatrick from Kentucky. 1879. One of our blacksmiths on Olive Street is amassing a fortune rapidly. And he did this by putting rivets in pocket knives and also manufacturing bolts. And he talked about how he had one customer that like every other day came in with this knife and he had to put the rivet back in for him. Photo taken in Maquoketa about 1915. So the building on the left is the YMCA over here. And then the building located, which it was located on the corner of East Platte and South Olive, which is our green space right now, right?
No.
No? Am I looking at that backwards? Okay.
So the Emerson, so the YMCA building, some of us know it as the Emerson Hotel.
This was Emerson Hotel here,
Right.
okay?
Yes, and that's at the corner of Olive and Platte Street, East Platte Street.
Oh, okay, it's the next one.
So this is Olive Street that you're looking at?
Okay, on Olive Street. Okay, so,
Also that little white house right there that says
right here?
horseshoeing.
Yes, this one
That's-
says horseshoe.
Yeah, that's still standing.
Oh, that is?
And many years ago, I know my great-grandparents lived there, but that building is still there.
That is still there, the horseshoe,
Mhm.
okay. And then here is,
Olive.
I think they pronounce it Dupre. I know there's no R in there. Dupre Feed and Sale Stable. And then the next building here on the right, S.W. Davis. And then it says Chris Nissen Jr. Livery and Feed Stable.
Is that in the area where Rosenberg's are?
Yes.
Yeah.
As you can see, the majority of the Maquoketa Township blacksmiths were born on the East Coast. And in the interest of time, I'm not going to read through all the names. The first Maquoketa blacksmith was started by Alfonso Gowan in 1837. Alfonso Gowan was a native of Warren County, New York. And this photo is shown of an unknown blacksmith shop that was said to be located in Maquoketa Township. J.C. Harris was the proprietor of the Novelty Carriage Works, which was located on Main Street. He learned the blacksmith trade in New York. He also owned Harris's Opera House that had the seating capacity of 1,000. In 1877, he was united in marriage to Miss Sophia Majors of Maquoketa. There was a heavy storm that had knocked out part of the front wall of his blacksmith shop, and the entire roof carried over to an adjoining lot. And it says the damage was as much as $100 to $200.
And that's where the Mexican restaurant is now.
That is where the Mexican restaurant is, okay. John was fortunately down the river fishing at the time. And this was the same storm that also did a lot of damage to the Academy building, and it blew down the chimney there. So I don't know what the year was on that. They said that the rain literally came down in sheets. Blacksmith H.G. Dole worked at the novelty carriage work, and blacksmith Sarn Johnson was a Denmark native. Edward McCullum's business was located on the corner of James and Main. He resided on Olive Street. In 1862, Wilson Barnes moved his family to the city and purchased a half interest in the carriage and wagon shops of D.C. Clary. The new firm added a machine shop, and from that time on, prosperity attended the enterprise. In 1868, he purchased Mr. Clary's interest and took into partnership Mr. John Trial of Mount Carroll. Wilson was born in England. So in 1880, the Sentinel stated, Barnes Brothers are having brick delivered. And they were doing a building that was 25 by 48 feet. And it said when completed, they were going to add more employees. Somehow that doesn't seem like a very big building.
So that's the what I think of as the Penrose store on the corner of Olive and Flat Street.
Okay.
And if you go by there right now, they're removing some of the stucco, and you can see the brick that this is talking about, because it's all bare right there right now, at the very top.
Barnes Brothers, and they were the same people that got involved with the building of the dam, Lakers. They provided, according to their ads there, they had iron sash for windows, iron columns, counter railings for banks and offices, and they were plumbers as well, so they're pretty diversified.
Klondike,
Klondike.
not the
Oh, not
Lakers Dam, Klondike Dam.
Oh, at the Klondike Dam. Okay, I stand corrected. So they did the Klondike Dam, not Lakers. They also sold spring stalk cutters. And they were manufacturers of windmills.
You can tell that that's the Penrose building. It's, as
Yeah,
you
you
look
can
at it
tell
right
that's
there.
the Penrose building. Yeah. And located on East Platte Street, it says. And the ad on the right appeared in the Jackson Sentinel in 1885. Okay, so a new firm, wagon making and blacksmithing, 1889. Will Blunt and Will Frank, and I talked before about somebody bought out Frank, went into the business together. Mr. Frank sold his property next to Dupre Feed and Sale Stables and moved across the street into Will Blunt's shop. They were prepared to do all kinds of repairing in wagon and carriage work. 1914 yearbook ad for M.W. Clark, advertising, horseshoeing, and blacksmithing. And his new phone was 102. Jackson Sentinel, 1893, was reported, our blacksmiths have been quite short of work lately, but now they're enjoying a good business. Then there was another blacksmith named Andrew Coleman, and he advertised that his business was between Platte and Pleasant Street. 1880, the old blacksmith shop belonging to Mr. Josiah Davis will be used as a shop, and Mr. Bennett, brother-in-law of Mr. Abe Dupre, is the proprietor. Mr. Bennett and his business will be a valuable addition to the town, and he should receive due encouragement. So a photo of his business was shown earlier. 1880, M.A. Fletcher. He offered a 2-year warranty on his wagons. That was the first I saw where anybody warranted their blacksmithing work. 1921, the fire department was called to John Frank's blacksmith shop on North Olive Street. The fire started in a tank of oil in which Mr. Franks was tempering some tools. And at the end of the article, an insurance agent had a tag. It says, insure with H. Gale Buckner. Better be safe than sorry. It may be your property next. Gibson, Gilmore, and Gross were all blacksmiths working independently in Maquoketa, and shown is the Gilmore's unusual cemetery stone. You know, it looks like a tree. And that's located in Monmouth. And I believe that is the Gibson, the C.D. Gibson. The Jackson Sentinel reported in 1879 that the shop of John P. Gross is surrounded by wagons every day in need of repairs, and that he was doing a large business repairing those wagons. Ed Gurias wrote a New Year resolution on one of his company notepads. It says, "I will be a good papa to my 2 little kitties all the year and do all I possibly can for them." And then part of it's unreadable. So Guria served in the 49th Regiment Iowa Infantry during the Spanish-American War. Jackson Sentinel, 1885. J.C. Harris, advertising buggies and blacksmithing. William Hunter began as an apprentice at age 18, as noted in the 1870 census. J.H. Jenkins was also a Maquoketa blacksmith. And these halter artifacts are located at the museum. Hunter and Jenkins may have made, halters similar to these, because I don't know, nothing was written on these photos.
Those,
Or did they go to something?
excuse me, that was donated by the Marcuses.
Oh, donated by the Marcuse
They
family?
have the ponies.
Okay. H.W. Lee advertisement, blacksmith, horseshoeing, and repair shop. And he actually did guarantee his work. It says work warranty and done at reasonable prices. Emery Mills Blacksmith Shop, photo taken in 1930 when it was located on North Olive Street, just north of which was later Jackson County Tire. Mills is second from the right. Frenchie, last name not remembered, is on the left. The other 2 men on the right are not identified. Mills later built a shop a block south on South Olive in the premises later occupied by Huff's Pub, and then still later Perzackley's Bar and Grill. And so this image can be seen in our booklet here, the images of the past.
Robert Abbott owns that building now.
Right.
And he's looking for somebody to open a restaurant in there, and he's already got branded the blacksmith
But yeah.
shop or whatever.
So that building will take on another new life. Arthur Morris married Mary Allie Hayes, who's shown in the photo. His blacksmith shop was opposite the courthouse. Jason Pangborn put up one of the first frame houses that was built in Maquoketa. He broke a farm and afterwards started a blacksmith shop. He was one of the last remaining old settlers. So he outlived a lot of his friends. Shown is Raven's blacksmith shop, and the men are unidentified. And we don't know where this is located other than it's in Maquoketa. New firms, Raines and Johnson, 1882, wagon and carriage makers and repairers. And they were located on South Main Street near the Midland Depot. 1914 yearbook ad featuring A. Robbins General Blacksmithing. It says Oliver Street, but I'm thinking that should be Olive, unless I got the town wrong. But it was in the Maquoketa yearbook for an ad. Kim Robinson's Home and Blacksmith Shop, located at 105 South Olive on the left. And then the photo on the right is the house as it appears today. So I found this kind of humorous, but Robinson was a horseshoer who married a shoemaker. I mean, that was her last name. The Robinson Blacksmith Shop. Standing at the front are Kim Robinson. So I think this is from the picture I just showed you on the left. Kim is in the door, and Ed Sita is on the left. And then someone wrote on this photo, name of the dog on the roof is unknown. At first I wondered if that was just like a statue, but you think that's like a real dog up there.
That's what I was gonna ask, was it a statue or a dog that just happened to be standing there?
So I wonder how it got there, because those are kind of like false fronts, you know, how that dog got on there. Abe and William Rogers operated Rogers and Brothers, located on the corner of Olive and Pleasant. So it seems like a lot, the blacksmithing, you know, had to do a lot around Olive Street.
I think there were livery stables there too.
In Liberty Stable. Blacksmith James Simmerl served with the 1st Iowa Cavalry with the rank of 1st Lieutenant. 1879, Messrs. Schultz and Bennett are erecting a large wagon and blacksmith shop combined. The wagon shop being 164 by 54, 2 stories high. And the upper story was going to be used as a paint shop, which I found kind of, so you've got that in the upper story, you've got to walk up there, carry all that paint, up and down. The blacksmith shop being on the same foundation, which obviously you couldn't have the blacksmith shop on the 2nd floor. And then it says the boys are going to have ample room to carry out their business. Henry Smith Blacksmith Shop and Home in Macokota. So I have those pictures for a while, so I don't know, they're fairly, I don't know if the picture on the right then, if that building is still up. I'm not sure the location of that. Does that look familiar to anybody? 1886, Mr. Southers died at about age 60. He was a blacksmith in the machine shops of Barnes Brothers, which I mentioned earlier, for 18 years, and he was an honorable and faithful mechanic to them. So look at how the title of this, so one of the blacksmith's wives died, and it says, "Old Lady from Macokota Dead." That's just how you want your picture stated. And she's probably not even, I don't know how old she is, she's probably not even that old. Charles Taylor was born in New York and was living in Macokota by 1860. J.H. Thompson sold his iron. See at the top there it says for 5 cents a pound. And then the heavy flat iron was 4 cents a pound. More Macokota blacksmiths are listed here. Ebenezer Weeman died at the age of 94. The Civil War veteran had been a blacksmith for many years in Macokota. The business of C.C. Young was located at the corner of West Platte and Niagara. Miles, Iowa Township. Blacksmith Built a Dream by John R. Adney. So this was written later about this blacksmith. You almost have to be an old timer to remember when you eyeballed Elder Neal as he whizzed around town in his gasoline-powered horseless carriage. When Neal wasn't raising the dust with his one lunger, he shod horses, sharpened plows, and repaired farm machinery in his big red blacksmith shop at Main and Allen Streets. The Miles Savings Bank later occupied that site. Shown is Neal with the contraption that he built. The Miles blacksmith attracted more attention in his new gewgaw than most present-day residents with their new cars.
Is Miles Township in Miles?
And that's where some of it
is Iowa Township.
Is it really Iowa Township?
Yes.
Okay, because I thought a part of it. Okay,
No,
yeah.
it's all-
No, so I wrote Miles
correct.
is in Iowa Township.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. And so some of these, I have the townships, then I have the town, because I know some of the towns are kind of split with the township stuff. However they identified it, I just put it in the presentation that way. An early Miles Main Street scene. In the foreground is a wagon shop, and next door is a blacksmith shop. So here's the blacksmith shop right there. And then the wagon shop here, where the wagon is. Another Miles blacksmith shop. This was unidentified. I almost feel like we saw this picture already. Did I already show that one? 1886. Jackson Sentinel. Fulton and Lucky are drilling a well for our popular blacksmith, H.W. Cruz. And then also wrote in 1892 that Henry Cruz was looking over his books and found he had done $2,500 worth of blacksmithing business in the past year, which was really good. Henry was active in his community, and he really did contribute a lot to the success of the community. He was also served as sheriff for Jackson County for 2 terms. Wondering how he had the time to do all that. Article tells of Henry Cruz buying out Harry Lee's shop in Miles. Harry W. Lee was an alias that he acquired at some point after the Civil War. He's actually David S. Harry, a soldier who served with the 97th Pennsylvania and distinguished himself in the battles in which that regiment fought. Monmouth blacksmiths that were natives, U.S. natives, came from Pennsylvania, Ohio, and New York. Levi Snowbarger, shown on left, was born in Indiana. A photo on right is a photo of blacksmith Leonard Willis's wife. So two different blacksmiths. Samuel Tebow and William Belcher, Monmouth blacksmiths, were both born in New York. Tebow was mustered in Company K of the 1st New York Engineers on 1861 and mustered out 3 years later. Belcher served with Company K, the 39th New Jersey Infantry. More Monmouth blacksmiths. These men were born in New York with the exception of Leonard Willis. Uri Heath was the father of Rush Heath, and Leonard Willis was the father of James and was born in Vermont. Thomas Sloper and the Springers all came from Ohio. Dumont, Gilmore, and Wagner were born in Pennsylvania. And I think this is the same Foster Gilmore. Major Foster Gilmore is buried in the Monmouth Cemetery, so I think that is the blacksmith. These 4 Monmouth blacksmiths were immigrants. Bayram's business was located at the south end of Main Street. He was a blacksmith and wagon maker who did horseshoeing and repairing. Dan Potter was a blacksmith in Nashville. Otter Creek blacksmiths included Wagner, Miller, Fletcher, Waters, and Zebo. Nicholas Zebo's father, Charles, was also a blacksmith. The Turley blacksmith shop in Otter Creek during the 1920s is shown. And so standing from left to right, the second person is Dave Turley, then John Turley, and then the rest are unidentified. And then in front sitting, the first one is Matt Mesh, and the others unknown. Blacksmiths who settled in Otter Creek Township came from Canada, England, Ireland, and Germany. D.Y. Dupre was a manufacturer of the Jenkins cultivator, as well as light and heavy wagons at Otter Creek. And he's buried in Sweezy. These Perry Township blacksmiths were all born in the United States. Luke Irwin was born in 1795 in Pennsylvania, and as a young man he took part in the War of 1812. 4 of his sons served in the Civil War, 2 losing their lives. 1 died on a boat in the Mississippi River, and the other one died near Pea Ridge. Shown are Perry Township blacksmiths who were immigrants. Robert Anderson was born in Scotland. Dandel, Dottle, and Smith came from Germany. U.S.-born Prairie Spring Township blacksmiths included George Washington, Batchelder, Goler, Hutchins, Lash, and Wagner. And Goler was a Maquoketa native. Prairie Spring blacksmiths Nicholas Mitchell and William Goose were both born in Holland. William Smith was from England, Michael Sullivan from Ireland, and Bernard Gross from Luxembourg. So quite a variety. Blacksmith Nelson Danforth worked for Day and Hobart, an agricultural implement dealer in Preston. I mentioned earlier that M.A. Fletcher had a shop in Maquoketa. So whether or not he had 2 shops, one in each town with employees, or he later moved to Preston, I'm not sure. 1876, John Weesmore is erecting a new blacksmith shop, and it's nearly ready for occupancy. 1879, Day and Hobart have rented their blacksmith shop and tools to Jerry Sullivan, who took possession yesterday. The first livery stable in Preston was owned by P.F. Coleman. It was later converted to a blacksmith shop. And the caption on this said, "Photo shown facing north towards Centennial Park." J.A. Jost was a horseshoer and general blacksmith. In his ad, it stated highest prices paid for old iron, copper, and brass. And the ad on the bottom advertises, you always get there with never slip caulks. So do you see those little things beside the horseshoe? I don't know if that's what they're calling caulks, and caulk is spelled C-A-L-K. In the 1920s, Frank Menke performed blacksmithing and machine work. He later moved his family to Wisconsin. April 6, 1876, Jackson Sentinel. That new blacksmith shop of which we spoke is about completed, and the sound of John's hammer will be heard there this week. John Peters has just ordered $1,000 worth of hardware and thinks that this will last his trade until the spring trade commences. W.J. Swartz, General Blacksmith and Horseshoer. And these are items listed on his receipt. So that one at the top that says 200, I just wonder if that's like supposed to be $2, but maybe it was 200. So fire hook, 200. Grind hand axe, 25. Sharpen grub hoe, 25. Sharpen jack, 25. Grind axe, 25.
That has to be cents.
Has to be cents. I didn't know if like he manufactured those fire hooks, like they bought 200 fire hooks.
Curly Preston of Preston. Oh, excuse me, City of Preston.
And I guess it was just a given that that couldn't have been $200 maybe for him. That's why I know no decimals there or anything. Irish-born James Dunleavy was a private with the 5th Kansas Cavalry, having enlisted in 1861 and discharged 3 years later. Shown are U.S.-born Richland Township blacksmiths, Hannes, Thompson, Purdy, Dupre, and Weirman. Thomas Dupre, he may have served in the War of 1812. Shown is Keller's blacksmith shop in Sebula in the early 1900s. Situated on North River, Keller was the grandfather of Helen Keller McCarthy. How many of you knew Helen Keller McCarthy? No? Yeah. On the left of the picture, a small portion of Keller's residence can be seen. And maybe a very small, maybe a couple of them. You don't really see much there at all. Listed are the U.S.-born Sebula blacksmiths. The Dominies and Dennings were most likely father and son blacksmiths because of the age, looking at that. Sebula had blacksmiths from Scotland, Germany, and Canada. Shown is Jerry Kiersgaard's blacksmith shop in Sebula. I love how they're just kind of hanging out the windows there.
Yeah,
Sitting on the ledge.
these pictures like this, was it like a photographer that said, okay, on Saturday the 10th, I'm gonna go around to the different businesses? I mean,
I don't know.
how did they, I mean, there's so many of these pictures just like this. And like, they didn't all own a camera like that.
Well, don't you think maybe the newspaper, and then it was in the newspaper later?
That could be.
Something like that. So the lower sign on here read J.L. Kramer, First Class Harness Sales, and the sign on the top says Economy Carriage and Wagon Works. Shown is the interior of Jared Kiersgaard's blacksmith shop in Sebula. And that looks kind of like a staged photo for showing people. It doesn't look like anything's hot or anything here. Advertisement for Nelson DePowie, whose business was located between Union and Quarry in Sebula. St. Donatus blacksmiths included Martin Fritz, J.P. Boniface, and I think they spelled that different ways, so I don't know if it's the same family. Peter Kemp, Nicholas Post, and John Wilms. Nicholas Post was born in Iowa. Martin Fritz and J.P. Boniface came from Germany. And so that's, I think, how the Boniface spell their name today, or maybe it's just with one N. But then Boniface, in some other slides, it's going to be shown differently. Joseph John Hoffman, photo taken about 1955 in front of his blacksmith shop in St. Donatus. I don't know which one Hoffman is. Anybody know? If he's on the right or the left. Shown is John Boniface, and see how that's spelled there. Home and blacksmith shop in St. Donatus. He was living with the Kirchen family in the early 1870s before he married. And the Kirchens had, this is their family farm in St. Donatus, and you notice all the wagons and implements, so I don't know if maybe they were blacksmiths as well. John Boniface was born in Luxembourg in 1840. He and Marie were blessed with 9 children. In the 1900 census, he was 59 years old, and he was a blacksmith at that time. John's son Peter was also a blacksmith. He later became a manager of a recreation parlor. Martin Fritz was born in Baden, Germany in 1834. He immigrated to America in 1866, eventually locating in St. Donatus. He also farmed. So some more Jackson County artifacts that Bonnie had sent me, and I guess those should have gone with those other pictures. So again, are these donations from the Marcusi family. J.B. LeConte was a well-known blacksmith in St. Donatus, and he died in 1921. And he had come from Luxembourg. Shown is Peter Mortenson's blacksmith shop. So before he immigrated, this was his blacksmith shop as it appeared in Denmark in 1894. And he is buried in Muskoka. South Fork Township blacksmiths born in the U.S., Hugh and William Dupre, Franklin Frazier, John McCard, William Mason, Dennis O'Meara, David Potter, and Harris Salter. And then we have foreign-born blacksmiths, Daniel Fraser and Daniel Nairn, both immigrated from Canada. Gottfried Mayer was from Ortenburg. This is the Spragueville Street scene, showing an unnamed blacksmith shop. Must be on the left there. And the feed store, post office, and some of the houses in town. It's a little hard to see. A little grainy. Now look at the spelling of this. Now on the picture, it says H. Kilberry's. But do you think that's spelled right? Or do you think that's really Kilburg? It was a shop that was in Springville.
I was once told that sometimes if there was a feud in the family, somebody would change the spelling of a word to disassociate themselves from that family.
Okay, so she just said that if there was a feud in the family, sometimes people would change their spelling of their name a little bit. So they weren't associated then with us. William Carl Frederick Blassfeld was the son of German immigrants, and here he's shown with his wife. This photo is shown of the Spragueville log rollers. William Blassfeld is on the far right. He later changed his name to Blassfeld with a D at the end instead of a T. And then his son or grandson, I'm not sure which, actually lived in Muskoka. And their daughter graduated with me. The old blacksmith shop at Spragueville, owned by George Edelman, holding the reins of the horse. The man on the left is William Blassfeld. William Blassfeld was commonly known as Curly due to his red curly hair. He took up blacksmithing at the age of 20, and this photo was taken from the 1900s. Another photo of Edelman's blacksmith shop. So Edelman's blacksmith shop had a lot of different owners. So you had Blassfeld, and after that Henry Kilberg, and then Edward Driscoll, Nick Tilmoney, Henry Blassfeld, Bryce Droppers, and the Zymans. And then that said at the present time, but again at present time this was probably decades ago when this was written. So do Zymans still have a garage?
No.
They do?
No,
They did. No.
It's a fertilizer.
It's fertilizer.
Bins, excuse me, green bin.
George Edelman was a farmer and blacksmith who owned 310 acres of land. Mr. Edelman served as a road supervisor. He served 3 years with the Company K 26th Iowa Volunteer Infantry. His 1879 fortune stood at $14,000 to $15,000, which in 2002 That equated to over $260,000. And in 1883, he donated the land on which the Salem Lutheran Church in Springville stands. He donated it to the church as long as it is in operation. 1890, Jackson Sentinel. Good chance for a blacksmith and wagon maker. And so basically, William Blasfield was wanting to retire, and he was advertising his business for sale.
You notice how broken up that type is?
I know, the
That's
type is
because
very...
it's been used and used and used so many times.
Okay, that's good to know. Because it was printed so many times,
Use the same
so it
letters.
lost a little bit for each printing. J.P. Gross and Schmidt brothers were blacksmiths in Springbrook. Frank Feldhaus. Does anybody else think it's like really hot in here? Was born in Springbrook in 1879. He was 7 years old when his family moved to the Dakota Territory. By age 20, he was a harness apprentice living in South Dakota. He later married and owned a shoe shop in South Dakota. Shown is the 1950 ad from the Sioux Falls newspaper. And so at that time, he was a dealer in harness and men's and boys' shoes. He continued to sell shoes for another 25 years. Photo on the right, 1909, shows his harness shop in South Dakota. And the photo on left, you know, I'm thinking probably they had parades. He's advertising his business. Frank served in the Spanish-American War in 1899 for about 18 months. The photo on the right taken after he returned from the war. I think that he looks different. He looks good, but it looks like it aged him. Don't you think? He just looks looking at life differently. Main Street in Springbrook. And so you have the Banner buggies. So you have the Schmidt home and the vineyards, Banner buggies. Schmidt Brothers Blacksmith Shop. I think it's this one in the middle. Is that the one? Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why do the blacksmiths always have that great big piece over their front door?
I don't know. Does anybody
Does
know?
anybody know why they seem to have that big piece of wood up there, not just a roof or something like that? So why did they do that?
I don't know.
Is
They did that in the Wild West stuff, you know.
Yeah,
They
I
had,
wonder why they did that. Is
that's a
that
good,
for
very good
billboard?
question.
Where's that? What's she talking about?
She wonders why that they have,
See there, on the building.
why does it come up like
See
this?
right there, why
Straight
did they
up like
always
that.
do that? So what was the reason? Was it because of the smoke? Or
No,
something
just to
like
make
that?
it look-
If the
Well, I don't think it
blacksmith
was
shop-
just, I don't
Not
think it
just
was
blacksmiths.
shop. Liveries were on
Yeah,
it.
just to make them look
I
bigger.
think it was just a facade.
Just a facade, maybe. That could be.
Well, I wouldn't think they would do that just to have it look nice. There had to be a reason.
Remember, wood was cheap.
Okay.